In this lecture, you will learn how to display additional information as output when you do a SAM deploy. When we do a SAM deploy, you do see the resources that get created, the change sets and all that when the stack is created in the AWS cloud. In addition to that, if you as a developer want to provide some useful information that can be done using the outputs key. So at the end of your templates.yaml, add a new key called outputs. Let me add some lines here so that you can see it better. Outputs is the key. And what I want to render here to start with is the API gateway URL that is getting generated. Every time we want to test it, we are going to the AWS API gateway resource on the console, then getting these URLs and then using them in Postman. Instead of that, we can generate those on the fly. We can get those URLs and put them under the outputs key so that we'll see it on the console every time we do a deploy. So let's see that. Under outputs, the way it works, you can create any custom key. Create orders API. This can be anything. And under that, add a description, colon. All this will be rendered to the console when we do a SAM deploy. In the description, I'm going to say this is API gateway endpoint URL for create orders function. So that's the description, and the value is the main key. Value space. We are going to use an intrinsic function provided by CloudFormation called not sub. We have already used an intrinsic function earlier called not ref, which will fetch the objects that got created, the names of the objects which are generated on the fly. Here, using this substitution, we'll be able to substitute the values which get created when the stack is created in the AWS cloud within double quotes. Finish it and I'll explain it in detail. Here, I want to build the API gateway URL that gets generated on the fly. Go to Postman, copy this URL we have been using to hit the API gateway that we got from the API console in the AWS console. When we went to API gateway, we got these URLs from there. Copy them, come paste them inside the double quotes. If you carefully observe this URL, this execute API portion is static and this .aws Amazon AWS.com is static, and this prod/orders that is derived from this orders path here, and this prod is always static. The only changing portions here are this guy. See this? This is generated on the fly, a unique value for the API gateway, and this here US East is my region. So we are going to substitute those two values on the fly when this stack is created. Remove that. Use angular brackets, $symbol for a substitution. Within those angular brackets, what I want to substitute this with is serverless REST API. S capital, R capital, A capital, everything else is small. Serverless REST API. So at runtime, when we deploy this, not at runtime, when we do the SAM deploy, this value will be replaced by whatever value you saw earlier. Every time API gateway is created, that value will come in here. And this guy here, instead of hard coding it like this, you can use another substitution here for the region itself. Use $ within flower brackets for the region AWS : R capital region. That will give us the region. Automatically this URL will be built. If you want to test this, save it, go to the console, do a SAM build so that we'll have the latest template.yaml. Once that finishes, we'll do a SAM deploy. While the deploy happens, I'll pause the recording. Once it finishes, I'll come back, show the output. Finished successfully, but this time at the end of it, see this outputs block? So that got generated because we have added this outputs block at the end of our YAML file. Not only that, you see the key you have added, you see the description for it, what you have added, and the most important thing, this URL got generated on the fly. any developer using our project or working with our project and doing this SAM deploy need not go to the AWS console to get this API URL. He can grab this URL from here and go do his testing in Postman or use it in his own applications. As you can see, this value is exactly the same as what we had earlier. It got substituted thanks to the intrinsic function called sub that we have used, and also the region. See this US East that got substituted. This AWS : region, when the stack is built, got replaced with my region that I have. In the next lecture, I will show you how to add one more value or how to get the attributes. For more about the sub function, you can go to the AWS intrinsic function documentation, intrinsic function reference. Read about that here, function sub.